Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the globe who's tuning in on this today. And thank you for viewing and showing up for us. This is today's guest in this intimate conversation is Frances Evans. So welcome, Frances.
Hi, it's great to be here, Mandy. Looking forward to it.
Beautiful, and thank you for giving up your time for us. It's lovely. So I will just introduce Frances. So Frances has been channeling a source called Mercredan, Merc for short, since the late 1980s. So that is near on 40 years. So that's a long time, Frances.
It's a very, very long time.
Yeah. Okay, so he was introduced to spiritualism in his early 20s and since then has been what he calls a researcher into consciousness. This interest has led him down a wide range of roads such as astrology, hypnosis, psychotherapy, neuro-linguistics, or linguistic programming, the human potential movement, and a number of other interesting subjects. So Frances' training was originally as a scientist with a chemistry major, which led to an interest in physics, and then metaphysics, and now completing the circle into quantum physics and its relationship to Tibetan Buddhism. That's interesting. So throughout much of his journey, he has held an intense interest and passion for the line of teachings known as Toltec Wisdom, and particularly in relationship to the ancient wisdom of Theosophy. And I go, wow, that's really quite awesome. I'd love to have a chat with you about a few of those things. Frances, when we get another cup of tea together, another cup of and chat and, sort the world out as we do in our chats. But I have been had the huge honour, really, I feel, to be able to sit in on a channeling session with you and Merc. Merc is an amazing, beautiful consciousness, and the wisdom that comes through is very there's no bells and whistles. It's just very straightforward and easy to comprehend. He's this consciousness, because does he actually state whether it's masculine, feminine? It's really,
look, I think we sort of have to put labels onto things. And what Merck had said to me is, this is just like an address, like an email address. You simply type in and you send your message, and it arrives in the inbox of whoever it was sent to. But the bit in between is unknown. It is just pockets of data that come in from somewhere unknown. And we want to make even the unknown, we want to make it into something and somebody and personalize it, like it's like we have these aliens, these alien people, and you notice that they all look like us. They might not have any hair, or they might have big heads, but they've all got heads and arms, and there are not any running octopuses or or something else, or do you know what I mean? It's like we have to personalize everything.
We do, and I think it's to familiarize it somehow, so we can comprehend what that may be if we put it into that slot there or that slot there. It's a bit like that, I think.
Well, you have to go, if you look at this from the whole of science, what we know from quantum physics, truly there isn't anything here anyway. So we have made this up.
Yes.
And that's the most amazing and startling experience that you can have.
It so is. And it's such fun when you realize that and work out how to actually work it. I think it's such a lot of fun.
And we can talk a little bit more with that later on.
Absolutely. So Francis, what led to this channeling relationship?
Well, there's a wide, like everything, we look back on our histories and we have a whole heap of stories, and we can pick one story and we can run with that, or we can pick a slightly different one and run with that. And they're all different, but they're all about us. So I could say that it really all started when I was 4 and I died because I had bronchopneumonia. And there's a whole story around that. But I wasn't aware of anything at that point. It just was an event. And then there was another event and another event. But when I look back, every event in my life from that moment on seemed determined by some thread that was pulling me along and putting this bit of information or this bit of knowledge or this bit of interest or amazement in my way to draw me towards something. And so back in about 1970, I happened to be with some friends in a flat on a Sunday morning after a fairly hard Saturday night, and we were sitting around and we were bored. See, and one of them said, "Oh, when you're bored, we should go to the spiritualist church. That's always good for a laugh." Right? So we went to the spiritualist church, and this sort of thing that happened. They were, in those days, they had little circles, and people, the ladies went round and they looked at everybody and they said, "Oh, hello, dear. And I can see a lovely, pot of flowers with lovely roses behind you," and da-di-da-di-da, see? And I'm a scientist, by mindset, I'm a scientist. So I'm sitting there in this little circle, and I happened to look sideways, and there were pictures on the wall of this room. And in the glass, there was this picture of this woman in a bridal outfit, you see. And I thought to myself, just randomly, that's a weird picture to have on the wall of a place like this, you see. So anyway, she comes around to me and she looks at me and says, "Oh, hello, dear. I can see a lovely lady with a bridal veil and a beautiful posy of white flowers." And I'm going, what? What is this? See? And then I happened to look around and the picture off the wall had gone. I wasn't there anymore. And I went, "That's weird. That's weird." See, so the afternoon went and we went home, and I couldn't stop thinking there's something weird going on here. See? And so the next week I went back, and there was a completely different group there, nothing to do with the other lot. And that's when I met this lady, Margaret. And Margaret was extraordinary. And what she had done is, almost from the moment I walked in there, she and I had this deep connection. And within maybe 3 or 4, maybe 3 months of going there, I got invited into an inner circle. And in the inner circle, she was teaching what she called meditation. And meditation was giving out what you received. So whatever you got, you gave out. And so my first experience of this was, we're sitting in the circle, meditating, and I'm getting, "Mary had a little lamb." That's what I'm getting. And I'm thinking, I'm not giving that out. You've got to be bloody joking. Right? So that week ends. So we go back the next week, and I'm sitting there and so doing this meditation. I'm getting, "Mary had a little lamb." And I'm going, "What is this?" I'm not going to say that. That's stupid. Huh? So the next week comes by. We're sitting there doing this meditation, and Mary has a little lamb. And I think, oh, for goodness sake. So I go, I'm getting this mess, this rhyme. Mary has a little lamb. And the woman on the other side of the room said, oh, that's for me. And it was stunning because I realized that everyone goes through a test. And the test is, how willing are you to speak the truth of what you're getting? You're not twisting it or changing it or doing anything with it.
Yeah.
Right? And so from then on, I'd sort of learned this, and then I went away and I didn't think too much of it. And over that period of time, other stuff started to come up, and I started being taken into all sorts of places, you know, and particularly with some of the psychedelics. So, you know, in those days, you know, we're all doing psychedelics. And I, because of my mindset, because, you know, naturally I'm a scientist, I was always researching. My friends were all smoking, you know, grass and weed and stuff, and, you know, having a wonderful time. And I'm busy going, what is happening in here? And, you know, what can I do with this? And does this open any doors to anything else? And what's the mind all about? And why are we here? You know, it's all research, see? And then one day I had this enormous experience with LSD, which opened the doors of perception. And it was really only after that I read the two books that Aldous Huxley wrote, which is Doors of Perception and Heaven and Hell. Right? And it was like, this is what he's talking about. I have been to that point. I have been there and seen the dark and the light, the two extremes of this. And so that sort of opened another door. And after a little while after that, we had a little sort of dream group. And during one of these things, this was around the time that I'd come across the Seth material and Seth, you see. And so I was, you know, happened to mention in this little group that I had sort of done this before. And they all wanted, you know, to have a, you know, to have a go. So I had to go, and immediately I brought through this character. Now, and this is a character that called itself Isba. He says that he was a teacher, a teacher of mine back in the Middle East. And that's, you know, I had been this student. Right. And so we used to have these meetings once a week, and they would say, one of the guys there would say to me, oh, go on, do spook. Go, do spook, see? So I got into this habit of going along, and we used to record these on little cassette record tapes, you know, and I recorded probably 150 of these tapes. They were just, and I hated listening to them, so I never listened to any of them. You know, but somehow it's sort of, whatever came through was sort of bleeding through somehow. Mm. And then one day we were doing something, and at that moment Merc came through, and what it outlined was a completely different level of sort of connection, and that was it. So that was probably in the late, about 89 or round about 89.
Wow. That's very interesting. And sitting in the group with you when you do allow Merc to come through, Francis, you go. Where do you go? Like, do you know where you go when because you leave your body, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, you know, to do any of this, you have to step aside, because if you are in your system, then you are like
Colouring it, say.
coloring it, or you're putting it through your filters.
Mm-hmm.
And this is thing I think that came from the LSD experience, was how to let go completely. And so for me, it's a bit like, you know that the right, it's like, you know, the right sense or feeling or connection that you've tested over time, and then you step out of it, and in a way it's like you take the back room. It's like, yes, you can hear it word by word by word.
Oh, okay.
You know, like in the first instance, when I was channeling Isba, it was like reading a ticker tape. You get a word, and then you have no idea what the next word will be. So, because the ticker tape, until you said it, the ticker tape doesn't move on. See, so in a sense, it was like whatever Isba and I was here reading the ticker tape. But when Merc came in, I wasn't. And I'd taken the back room, and, if you like, was perhaps, shall we say, in amongst the students listening.
Right. So you actually do hear what Merc's saying when you're in the...
Not really. No, because, well, you do. You do hear it, right, but you only hear it one word at a time, and then it's gone. The word is gone. So you can't string meaning. You know, you don't string the meaning together. It's not like, oh, I know what this is, and I'll just say this meaning.
Right.
It's just, so in a way, it's a protection, I think, that I chose to have in order not to interfere. Because I know that if I could interfere, that's the first thing I would do, is interfere.
Right.
And I would choose, oh, I'm not going to say that, or, you know.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So do you get exhausted after a session with Merc?
Not at all. Not at all. Everyone thinks that, you know, because there's so much energy going out, and I get, if you, more than anything, uplifted or energized. You know, what I did find is that I would heat up. So during this time, I get very, very hot. You know, and it's like, well, where's that coming from? That's just whatever, you know, because normally I feel the cold, but in the channelings, it's like, you know, take all these clothes off because it's so hot in here.
Yeah, I understand that. It does.
And I'm sure a lot of people have these same experiences.
Yeah, I have channeled before, but it does heat up. I do get hot whenever. It's interesting. So Merc's high vibration, because he definitely does come from a high frequency. I'm saying he, you know, we'll just go with he.
you have to go with one or the other, or you know.
But you have to keep referring to consciousness all the time. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
So has this altered your vibrational space over the time and the years that you've been channeling Merc, and him, you know, sort of moving through your body?
Look, I think that all of us, see, I don't see myself as being anything special. I just feel that anyone can do the same thing. Anyone. It's not a you've got to be gifted or something to do this, but you do have to be able to get out of the way, and that is really the biggest problem. So I don't go, oh, there's a high vibration or any of that. I think it's a switch. Do you know, from a quantum point of view, quantum or a quanta is a discrete level of energy. There's no sort of like an analog to this. It's either on or off. And I've always found that when Merc is coming through, there is a moment when I switch out and he switches in. There's no blending of anything, you know?
Right.
So it's like switch, gone. So, you know, like for me, when we talk about high and low vibrations, we step into the role, this idea that we have that there's a good and bad, there's this and that, there's you know, rather than we are all one thing, we're all a unit, and what we have done is we have, if you like, descended into physicality. Right, so the vibrations, if you like, are to do with density. How dense are you? How heavy are you? You know, so people who are, you know, so-called low vibration are dense, right? They have a heaviness. Their life is a trudge. It's a difficulty, and when we recognize this, then we can begin to let go of that heaviness and be freer and freer and freer until you fly. And when you're flying, it's like you're flying in your, in your being. It's not as if you're flying in the, in the air. You're flying in your being. And once you are able to do, I'll tell you a story. With a story about Margaret. Margaret was Scotch, right? She was a Scots lady. And one day she said to me, we were just together for whatever reason. And she said to me, I just feel I had to go visit the family in Scotland and they were in a terrible storm, she said. I watched this tin roof fly off the shed and was aiming for the window where the children, where her grandchildren were sleeping. So she said, I put up my hand and stopped it. I went, whoa, this is an interesting thing. Here she is, she's saying this. Then the next week, she brought in a letter from her daughter who said, a strangest thing happened the other day. She said the roof off the shed blew off and it was flying up towards the windows and it just stopped dead and fell to the ground. And I mean, this is really bizarre. So, and to go with that, you see, one of the things that happened in this particular LSD thing was I was busy freaking right out. And the only person I thought could help me is Margaret. And I called out to Margaret and she turned up. And there she was. And I went, woo, wow, I'm really powerful at hallucinating. See, this is hallucination, brilliant. So the next Sunday, well, she was actually talking to someone else about their drug-induced thing. And then she turned to me and she said, you can stop doing that too. I can't be around all the time. And it was like, whoa, hang on. This is completely broken everything that I've ever understood about the physical reality. Can't exist. And I believe that that's when I really started researching into consciousness.
Right.
So all these things add up. I did all this therapy on myself because that was necessary to get out of the blocks, and then I started, doing many things.
Right.
So you could say that by studying hypnosis, I studied hypnosis and I studied Erickson hypnosis or or conversational hypnosis. And with that, the thing that I noticed is I could put myself into an extremely deep hypnotic state,
Okay.
which means, wow, it's easy to let go from there.
Yeah. That's probably what's helped you to be able to do that, definitely.
Yeah.
Move out from Merc. Well, that was the next question, was there anything that you needed to do to prepare yourself for this channeling with Merc? Like, is special foods or anything
Look,
to prepare your body, or?
No, and yeah, I'm going to preempt other questions too here, I'm sure, because we taught how to do channeling from a model of someone who went around the world and modeled in an NLP way all the great channels, right? How did they do it? And I do it exactly to the proper model, right? So the thing about this is the first thing is you create your reality. That's number one. And if you create your own reality, whatever you find inside is your creation. It's like your dream is your dream. If it's a nightmare, you made it that way, right? So one of the things I don't do is I don't need to light candles or put crystals in the corners or whatever it is. But I do need a ritual. I do need to say, for me, because I'm not willing to be taken over randomly at all. So I say, I'm willing to go into this state in this time because I will put on this some sort of shawl, some sort of covering, and that is the first marker. I mark the space. Right. So this is my space. This is my. It's not so much a protection because you'd have to have something to be protected from, and if you don't create that, they're not going to be there. See, so I put that on, and then I have a sort of a ritual that gets me. In my case, it's a sort of it's a bit like a hymn. I just sort of make this connection until I feel like now's the time, and then I can allow that to come in. Then I start to get the state of Merc. I can feel that, and that's the moment where I will go in. I will, Merc always starts with the same words, right? And the reason for this is the changing point. This is right. I say this, and he'll finish it, and I'm gone. See, so in a sense, there's those things, but somewhere in all of that, the number one thing of all is not to exist. So the identity has to give over, and that means not to exist at all. And that's the biggest ask. And when we've done trainings with others to teach them how to do it, that's the stumbling block. They can go into the trance, all right. They can tap in, and then suddenly they're asked not to be. Don't be anything. And that's where fear comes in, because if you're not, if I'm not I, then who am I? Where do I go? Am I dead? What am I, can I get back in? What happens if I get taken over, and all those fears?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the ritual.
Okay. It's interesting you saying about no crystals and candles and all that sort of thing. And there was one really strong point for me throughout this lifetime that I was very aware of, and that was not to do ritual, not to make things a ritualistic way of being, because it limits us, was what I was getting. It was limitation. And yeah, I actually get that. I understand what that means for me anyway, personally.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't deny, yeah, see, I don't think it's a bad thing for others to have a ritual,
yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
to, because you're preparing yourself, you know, like this is a marriage, right? Do you go into the marriage with, you know, just with your pen to sign the papers,
yeah,
or do you want the ritual thing? Do you want to, you know, to walk down the church and to, you know, and to have all of that stuff, and to have the friends and all this stuff with you? So I think that there are times for ritual. The
yes,
thing about this, you know, and I have nothing against that. I do have something against protections, and this is an either or as well, because if you are going to create, you know, if your beliefs have, you know, inner worlds with demons and all the rest of it in, you definitely need protecting from them. But if your world does not contain those, if you believe in that the inner world is pure, then there's nothing in there to be frightened of.
that's
And
right.
and if there's no fear, no fright, then what are you protecting against? By doing ritual protections, even without an experience, you're going to bring that creation there, because every protection needs a demon.
Yeah. And that's what I would say to any of my development students, you know, was that I'm not going to say to you to put up protection, because instantly we do that, it just conjures up fear. And there's this, well, what do I need to protect myself from? And
Yeah,
instantly, you know, we're bringing that in basically. So
yeah,
it would just be,
and if you understand your own psyche enough, you know your psyche is filled with demons,
yes,
right? They are filled with all the things that could go wrong,
yeah,
and you feed that, and if we keep feeding those, they get bigger.
they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the bigger they get, often the more powerful they get, until you become powerless.
Mm, yep, absolutely. So, Francis, what would you say do you think is the difference between Merc and other channels?
It's a hard question to answer, because you know, when I for me, Merc is ultimately practical. Right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, is not saying, you know, like I can, you know, come to me and I'll lay my hands on, and instantly all your codes are going to get changed, and you're going to be ascending to the highest levels, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that is like, yes, that's a much better sales pitch. I, I've never had a good sales pitch, because Merck doesn't say this. He's saying, look, you know, your job here is to deal with life and to learn how it operates as a creation.
Mm,
So, you know, your this experience we have is a dream.
mm,
And like a dream, every element in it is, first of all, you, and secondly, is a element that is giving you some feedback about what is going on in life right now. See,
mm,
so, you know, like I see everything as omens. You know, like we had a most strange magpie on the lawn yesterday morning, you know, and you look at that and you think, what the hell is that bird? What is that bird doing? So what is that about? You know, what is that bird come to remind us about,
mm,
you know?
yeah.
So there are so many things that we have every day, every day we have signals that say, wake up to this. And what we generally do is, as we push them away, we push away all the help that we get. And I think that Merc is ultimately a helper. So, and actually, I think that in some way there is a field that comes out that isn't actually me. It's more Merc is the field, and when you sit in it, it has an effect on you. Yeah, and it's sort of, maybe it shakes up, because I've had people who I come back and they're in tears, and I think, God, what's he done? What's he said? But I've only ever had one person who was so angry that they walked out. And I went, whoa, I wonder what he said to her. Obviously, it wasn't what she wanted to hear. And people do come, what I notice is that Merc speaks to people where they're at. So sometimes when there's a group, he will say things, and different people will come and say, oh, I got this, and that was for me, da da da. And they've both taken something from the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's what they themselves have needed. And mostly, I think that the other thing that happens is people already know this stuff. It isn't new. It's waking up to what they already know. And Merck seems to be able to put them back on their path. Saying, look, you already know this. It's time to actually do something with what you already know, to take that step and to clean out all the unwanted, stuff that's holding you back and holding you from your fulfillment as in this lifetime.
He's definitely very practical and very grounded too, even in the high frequency, because when I've sat in the presence of Merck's field and energy, that really raises my frequency. And the way that I know that is that my heart opens, right open, very, very wide, right open. And there's a vibration. I mean, I can feel the shift in my own frequency when in his presence, or that consciousness. And definitely very grounded, brings you back to, always brings you back round to, you are the creator, just all the time. And it's such a great thing. I love that about Merc.
And this is the thing, over the years, Merc has come in with some incredible things that over time, I've been led to the same thing from other perspectives, So, and one of those things is that everything is a paradox. So when we think of it in one way, we're missing the other side of it. So we think that to be spiritual is to be somewhere up in the heavens. But actually, to be spiritual is to be flat on the ground. And so he reminds us that your soul is on the bottom of your feet.
I love that. That is so awesome. And, when you think about it, we call it the sole of the feet.
Yeah. And we sort of try to spell it differently. But the point is that when you're here, bringing in your enlightenment, your inspiration, and your uplifting, right? It is a field that is sensed by everyone, So, and you can prove this to yourself if you go down, if you uplift yourself and you have a smile, a proper, honest smile, everyone around you starts smiling. You can see them. You know, it's like I took I took a group into a restaurant, sort of bar restaurant in Parnell one day, and we went in to demonstrate that that fields, directed fields can affect people. So we go in, and there's a couple sitting at a table on the far side, way away from us, on the far side of this restaurant, and it's pretty clear they're having an argument. And within, I don't know, 5 minutes, they'd finished doing that, and they were laughing and having a great time. Oh. And I went, this is what we do. This is our job. Is when you see this happening, change the field around them. Yeah. And that is done by appreciating who they are. Just being appreciative. These people, we are all in the same waka, same boat.
Exactly.
And whatever we do is going to affect everything.
Yeah.
And this is where we find ourselves in this moment of truth. Yeah. Everyone says there is going to be there's a shift in consciousness. There's going to be a big change. Everyone is saying this. Well, of course there is, because we are on this verge of making a decision. Are we going to put the economy first, or are we going to put ecology first? Years and years ago, maybe 20 years ago, you could say they need to be balanced. Now it's one or the other.
Yes.
And that is a huge problem, because that means giving up all this stuff that we've been so used to having, and to grasping and to owning things.
Yes.
So I think that Merc is very different, because he is not spilling the age-old spiritual treatises that came out, I believe, out of the Piscean age. And when we entered the Aquarian age, the age of it is the age of hard mental application. So we're going to see lots of hard lessons, the hard decisions more than anything. Yes. And that's the reality. And yet, this is not to say that there is no ascension. At the same time, the ascension is making the hard decisions.
Yes.
The being true to what you can see. And when we deny what we can see, so we can see it everywhere, these omens are present everywhere, whether it's, hurricanes ripping through the Bible Belt. Tells us a lot about the Bible Belt. Is it the Bible? No, the Bible is a wonderful book of instruction. It is not a history. So if we go and read the Bible, and we can look at this and say, look at plagues and pestilence, look at starvation and all these things, and what happened? Why did these happen? What does the Bible say happens? It's well, it says when the people were bowing down to false gods. Whoa. Isn't that our present state of being? And it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not a Christian. If you are, bowing down to something that is not in alignment with the planet, with your home, Do you know? It's so we can see this everywhere. And I think Merck calls that so clearly. And, you know, and perhaps a lot less sort of aggressively than I do.
I think he's just very clear. He's, you know, very clear on that practicality. You just keep continually, you know, we run off in our mind and we run off in the story, and he will quickly sort of just very gently and subtly even bring you straight back, ground you back in, line you up with you are the creator. And what all that stuff there is just story. It's taking you off on a little jaunt somewhere, and it's like, come back here, be present here. And he's just so good at doing that. And with humour too, you know, he's got some humour in there as well. It's lovely.
I noticed this, see, about, if you look at the real channels, and there are lots of them, the good channels, they all have a sense of humour. They all make these jokes about the human condition.
Yes.
Right? Because they know that it's not all easy. It's not get told this and do that and you're, you know, and you're fixed. There is no fix. There is a constant, you know, unfolding and unveiling of who you are if you're not stuck and attached to the old storyline.
Yes, yeah. Oh gosh, no, we're over the old storyline. So Merck's channeling sessions, Francis, are in the form of a conversation. Is there any reason for that sort of format?
There's always, the reason for this is because, you know, people have to be on board, and they're on board with their questions. They're on board when they have been taken to what is really concerning them. Now, sometimes, you know, in these conversations, Merc will get to the end, and then he'll say, "Now, what about the real reason? What about the real thing that you actually want to know about? We've talked about all around all these other things, but what's the real thing?" And you know, my experience of this is every time that has happened, the person has had a real concern, a real worry that they're sitting on. They would love to ask, but they are frightened, maybe, or probably frightened that they are going to get somehow pounced on, and Merck doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't pounce on anybody, but to give sort of guidance, because he's also said there's a number of things. He says, I won't interfere in your life. This is your creation. If I told you what to do, what's the point in you being here?
Right.
So I'm only going to give you guidance around this, about how you're going to address this, and what are the things that need to happen inside of you that you have a choice with. And the other thing he won't do is he won't talk about someone else's position. You know, like people come and ask and they want to know about what about their husband or wife or their children and stuff, and he won't answer that.
Yeah.
You know, he will say, look, what I can answer is what your side of it, what you need to do.
Yes.
See, which is bringing it back to, you know, there's no healing trying to blame somebody else.
No, not at all.
You know, so I think that's also really pertinent.
I think people are scared, thinking that they've got silly questions. You know, that their questions are silly, and there's no silly questions. They might sound so or feel like they might be a silly question, but there never is. They're always very real.
And often the silliest questions bring out the greatest insights.
Yeah.
You know, like, because one of the things is that we as humans really want somebody to take charge, or you can't take charge of someone's creations. Like I was, interviewed for 2020 at one point, and the guy asked, he said, what's the lotto numbers? Right? And Merck said to him, look, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people creating their lotto numbers. What do you think is going to happen? A little bit of this and a little bit of that and some of this and some of that. Right? So, of course, nobody can pick the lotto numbers because they haven't been decided.
No.
Until the moment it's being drawn, and they're all putting their energy in and pushing the numbers this way and that way. Yeah. It's sort of like madness. So the thing he won't do is he won't talk about timing. He says, look, you can't say anything is timed because if everybody did what they were supposed to do, yeah, you could be accurate, but they don't. They go against it, or they do something stupid, or they simply, in time, some people are really powerful creators and they bring the timing forward. So you can't do that, but you can talk about, the energy fields that need to happen to create something.
Right, yeah. So, Francis, do you think or feel there's a difference between spirituality and consciousness?
I'll answer this with something that Merck said some time ago. He said, the challenge, the problem for humans is they want to own things. They want to own, this is my smartphone, this is my car, this is my house, this is my land, this is this is my body, this is my all these things. And he says, and then they get to, this is my soul. He said, you can't own a soul. It's not like that. So he says there's only one soul. It's everyone. So if you want to be in the soul, then you are not separate from anyone at all. Then everyone you see with compassion. This is not just my brother or sister. This is my soul brother, sister.
Yes.
And then your behavior towards them becomes very, very different.
It so does, definitely. And you see, for me, it was seeing that if I'm unwell, then I'm also contributing to the unwellness of the whole, so that got me.
I wonder, Mandy, if when you're unwell, whether it's because you slipped out of being in alignment with
absolutely
the whole, and it's not that you can ever pull anything down. The soul is unpullable down.
Right. Yes.
But it's how do I get back on board? Like I've fallen off the edge of the rocker, and I've fortunately someone's put a paddle out that I can hang on to, and they're pulling me in. And eventually I can get back in and dry off. I've had a fright. But if I mean, it's like everyone's on your side.
Yes.
Yeah. And even the people who are so lost, you're still on their side. Margaret said to me one day, she said, people think that ascension is going up and meeting the angels. He said it's not. It's going down into the pit where the poor, lost souls are kicking around. She said, I often have to go down amongst that muck and bring them up.
Yeah.
I went, wow, what a soul that is. You know,
Yeah.
what a being that has that compassion.
Beautiful,
You know,
isn't it?
it is.
So, Francis, has there been any instructions from Merck around what this consciousness would like you to do with the channeling experience? Like, has he given you, or Merck given you any sort of direction in where this consciousness would like to expand, or no need to, or
Look, I think that, you know, that I am not different than anyone else. So I'm not different, that I have to create my own reality. Merc is a gift, you know, and I feel like I'm a servant to that gift. You know, if somebody wants to take it up, if somebody wants to make use of this, then I'm a servant to it.
right?
You know, and I feel like as long as I'm in that space, it will be as it is. Yeah, that consciousness doesn't go out looking for others. Others go looking for consciousness. See, so it's like I don't believe Margaret went out looking for us, but in my experience, a hell of a lot of people found her.
Yes.
You know, and were moved and changed by her. And I feel like that's been my path along the way, is in many different ways. I've been guided. I often had this experience that I had the other day. You know, I used to say to people, I'm going to live to 120. So I went into the Whangarei library the other day, and I was upstairs, and I was just waiting for Delane. So I went down this aisle, and I just scanning, and not really that interested. And I got to the end of this aisle, and there it was, the book, How to Live to 120. And I went, what's the odds?
Absolutely.
You know, what's the odds that I go down randomly to get this one single book? And then I took it out, and I had a read of it. I thought, this is fabulous. This is brilliant stuff.
Awesome.
See, so, and I think people have these experiences, and then they delete them. They delete that if you listen, and it's not being told, it's being able to flow with where it's taking you. Go with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So the big question, have you thought about holding any channeling courses or classes?
I've done 2 or 3. Can't remember whether it's 3 or 2. I think it's 3 that we did a long time ago, teaching how to step into that place. So, and it's a weekend. You can do it fairly comfortably in a weekend. And I have sort of thought, is it possible to do this online? And I'm left in a question of, I don't know. You know, like, because it's just slightly harder to feel someone across the digital platform. You know, I have people who think that you can't, but you know, you can, because the fields around us have no distance. You know, the quantum experience of this, the quantum physics of this says that the only limit of the speed of light is when you are in the physical density.
Yes.
When you get out of the physical density, then you can, nothing limits it. You can think of something in no time at all. You can also transport your intelligence or your consciousness to places, times and places that aren't even in the present.
Yes.
So I used to do, at one stage at the beginning, I did a lot of past life regression workshops, taking hundreds of people into past lives, and, some people make them up, but a lot of the time, people are moved and transformed by their experiences in life, in
other experiences of life.
In other times and spaces.
Yes, definitely. I have been from mine for sure. So Francis, you're going to be, we are going to hold a live channeling session with you as an offer from you to this community, and that will be in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, yeah.
And so all of that information will go out with this link when we put this recording up. But is there any final closing remark you would like to make to the viewers?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many remarks that I could say. In the end, the remark I'd like to say is we talk a lot about we create our own reality through our beliefs and so on. I think the paradox to this is yes and no. The identity doesn't create anything. The identity works at things. The identity, is what motivators need. They need you to work at it and to shift your mind limitations and go for it, all that stuff. But we create our reality from beyond. When the I gets out of the way, suddenly you are part of the divine intelligence, and divine intelligence works through the, if you like, the densification. First of all, the divine intelligence. Secondly, the vision. So the mental field starts to part and to make pictures, and it's not like it's clear in the beginning. It is wisps of like dreams, right? And then as it comes down, you start to become more intensified with it. You start to become more involved and more ready to connect with it. And as you get more connected with it, you discover other people are coming into your world that have things that are beneficial to you. As it comes down and finally it manifests in the physical world, and it doesn't manifest like a magician, but the elements of it start coming in where things occur that you are not expecting, that meet other things, and so it begins to materialize. And that's, if you like, how you get to be in the physical world. And in the end, as you passing out of this physical world, then the opposite is happening. You start to become less material. You start to feel yourself dissolving away in whatever way it is. And if you hang on, then it will manifest as some disease that is there. But if you can let it go, all of that stuff, then you dematerialize, you start to feel lighter and eventually less really that present. And finally, you move out of it, even though you still have your emotional and your energetic attachments to things. See, so it's a beautiful way that we come in and we go out. And life, do you know, there's this thing that people think that you will go on, and Merck has been clear that you will not do that, that the paradox is the you that you have been in this lifetime is dissolving. You know, the only thing left is the unfinished business, right? You know, and that unfinished business will hang around until some other soul, someone else wants to come in and finish it.
Right.
And that's why lifetimes, he says, we do not have lifetimes, we have resonances. We resonate with other lifetimes. We resonate with that inner knowledge of what needed to be done over there. And this is why lots of people can be Queen Anne or Queen Elizabeth. They can all be that, or they can be, you know, famous people. Everybody is a famous person. No, because these are the people that have elements that draw you. But you're not those, and you're not the others, and you're not responsible for, if you like, your past lives. It is not punishment. Do you know? And when we take that punishment off, we uplift everyone.
And I know for me in the experience of you know, going in to see what the experience was in those lives for me, sort of opened me up to more of the gifts that I had within myself. You know, they were showing me more about who I am in connection to other experiences that I've had. And helped me in this lifetime to be able to bring more of those gifts through, really. It's interesting.
And it puts it into context, you know. We need to make understanding, to understand our consciousness, we need context.
Yes.
And you know, like, there are so many arguments, you know, of life and all the rest of it. But, you know, the arguments only tell you about the beliefs of someone else. So every one of us is individual and unique and special beyond anything that we can put words to. Everyone is special, even what appear to everyone else as being unworthy.
Yes.
I had this experience again at the same time as Margaret, and she alerted to me that she had a friend who was very backward, he probably had a mental age of, say, he was probably in his mid-20s and his mental age of about 12, right? And you know, she could feel this sort of distancing as we did, right, away from this guy. And she said, you need to take stock here. She said, you will never, ever be able to love like this guy. He's given up the mental to excel in the emotional.
Right.
And I went, wow, that changes everything.
Yes, that's amazing. It's a great way to see it.
Yeah. Do you know, and it's true, if you've ever been around these people, they are so open.
Yes, definitely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And then, of course, people take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
For whatever reason, that's their experience, you know.
and one of the things about it, it's what's interesting is even when they're taken for a ride, they do not judge.
No.
See, their hearts are so open.
Absolutely, so wide open.
And so we have to stand and sit in awe of these people with disabilities, so-called.
Yeah.
And what is their extra gift?
Absolutely.
Very
gifted.
And so I see myself really as we're here to be examples and to hopefully inspire others to their highest potential.
Yes, definitely that, for sure.
Thank
you so much, Francis. It's been an absolute honour to have you here, and I am so looking forward to the live with Merc.
Okay.
I was very blessed to have a one-on-one session with Merc, and he helped me hugely. So I really would encourage everyone to get in on this live, and also to be able to book a session privately, one-on-one with you at some point with Merc.
Okay.
So I'll, and like I say, put up all the details in this.
And we should probably say, that most of Merc sessions these days are on Zoom.
Okay.
Because of distance and all the rest of it. So, and actually, it works really well.
It does.
There's nothing missing by being online.
No, not at all. And you can record it, so you've got the recording there to listen to again too, which I must do with his one and mine. But thank you so much, Francis. It was a pleasure having you in, and I will be in touch again as to when we're going live.
Okay. So bless you, Mandy. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.